Silverwolf feels like 8-year-old me getting my hands on an action replay for the very first time and bending the rules for every Nintendo DS game known to mankind. For someone like me who hasn't pulled on any limited banner or spent a dime in Star Rail yet, Silverwolf is a cheat code for my account. While she's not perfect like others may paint her to be, with the correct build, Silverwolf gets pretty close to that and allows you to compensate for elemental coverage that your account lacks by implanting new elemental weaknesses onto the enemy. That's just one of the many things that Silverwolf has to offer, so if you want to learn more about her mechanics or her best relics, light cones, and teammates, stay tuned. Silverwolf's skill is her bread and butter and does a lot more than just applying an extra weakness to the enemy's toughness bar and dealing quantum damage. There are two additional debuffs that Silverwolf's skill has to offer, an elemental res reduction and an all-type res reduction. When Silverwolf applies a new element weakness onto the enemy, their resistance to the corresponding element will decrease by 20% for 2 turns, regardless if your skill is max level or unupgraded at level 1. However, the weakness implant and elemental res decrease only have a 75% base chance to land at skill level 1 without even factoring in the enemy's effect res, so it's important to level Silverwolf's skill as much as you can to increase this base chance. Comparatively, the all-type res debuff only scales up to 10% at max skill level, but the upside of this second debuff is that it's universal to all elemental damage, is not reliant on Silverwolf applying her weakness implant, and has a 100% base chance to land. Silverwolf's ultimate is quite similar to her skill in the sense that it needs to be leveled up as much as possible for its debuff potential. Not only does Silverwolf's ultimate deal single target quantum damage, but it also reduces the defense of the enemy with both the debuff's base chance and defense reduction value scaling with her ultimate's level. For both Silverwolf's ultimate and skill, the debuffs are applied before Silverwolf deals her own damage. This is an important fact to internalize for every single player, but even more so for players pulling for her signature light cone and Eidolons, which give her a lot of power in the personal damage department. Silverwolf's talent and major traces are probably the most underrated part of her kit, despite their changes since the public closed beta. Silverwolf's talent will grant any attack a chance to apply a bug to the enemy, which is the game's way of describing a small random debuff between attack reduction, speed reduction, and def reduction for 3 turns. As you would expect by now, upgrading her talent will not only increase the potency of these buffs, but also increase the base chance for them to land, so you probably want to spend a lot of time farming the Nihility Calyx for Silverwolf. Unlocking Silverwolf's first major trace will buff this talent by extending the duration of all bugs to 4 turns, as well as granting a chance for Silverwolf's weakness breaks to apply a bug as well. Silverwolf's second and third major traces increase the duration of her weakness implant by 1, and increase the all-type res reduction debuff on her skill when attacking an enemy with 3 or more debuffs respectively. The second trace is especially important because increasing the duration of her weakness implant allows Silverwolf to use her skill less. Using her skill less allows her to basic attack more and generate more skill points for the team's overall skill point economy, which is a huge bonus that many might overlook. Minor traces are also extremely important for Silverwolf because she has small boosts to effect hit rate, which is undoubtedly the most important stat for her to build. If you're wondering how much effect hit rate your Silverwolf needs to consistently land debuffs, let's delve into the EHR requirements right now. Just because a skill says that you have a 100% base chance to land a debuff, that doesn't actually mean you'll land the debuff every single time. This is because Honkai Star Rail has an equation that factors in your character's effect hit rate and the enemy's effect resistance to find the actual chance of landing a debuff. This equation is really simple and looks something like this. In the case of Silverwolf, currently no enemy has resistance to the special weakness implant debuff that she applies, so the last part of the equation with debuff res can be completely ignored. That leaves the equation as a simple product of your effect hit rate and the enemy's general effect res stat. You can find the effect res of every enemy on the wiki, and with the enemy effect res nerf in patch 1.1, the highest boss level enemies you'll find are level 90 with 40% effect res. We'll use that number to reverse engineer your optimal effect hit rate to land your weakness implant debuff with 100% consistency. Plug in the numbers at max skill level and you'll need 97% effect hit rate, but the exact number is 96.1% since we can actually see up to 1 decimal point in the detailed stats page for our characters. Subtract out the 18% effect hit rate from Silverwolf's minor traces and that leaves you with about 79% effect hit rate to get through Lightcone's Relics and Planar Ornaments. However, at this early stage of the game's lifespan, it's not reasonable for players to invest in their Silverwolf all the way up to level 80 given how expensive it is. For now, a more realistic spot for your Silverwolf to sit at is level 70 with a level 8 skill until the majority of the player base is able to hit Trailblazer level 60. Using this base chance and factoring out the final effect hit rate minor trace that you get at level 75, Silverwolf now needs about 102.1% total effect hit rate, and 92.1% of this effect hit rate needs to come from Lightcone's Relics and Planar Ornaments. In case you were wondering what gear you need to run on Silverwolf to hit these breakpoints, let's move into the Lightcone section to now cover her best options. Silverwolf's light cones are extremely easy to pinpoint given she's very hungry for effect hit rate stats. Her signature light cone Incessant Rain is undoubtedly the best light cone for Silverwolf, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to chase it. The reason being is that the free 4-star event light cone that we get with patch 1.1 actually makes it so that Incessant Rain is purely for whales or players who simply want to spend all their stellar jades on Silverwolf. The event 4-star light cone before the tutorial mission starts grants a whopping 40% effect hit rate at super imposition 5, as well as A energy every time the wielder attacks an enemy with a defense reduction buff. Comparatively, the limited 5-star light cone Incessant Rain only grants 24% effect hit rate at super imposition 1, but provides more raw damage with higher base stats, a crit rate buff, and a vulnerability debuff. Incessant Rain becomes extremely valuable for whales looking to push for higher damage with several Eidolons, but otherwise I'd say it's pretty safe for the average player to stick to Silverwolf's event light cone since it is free after all. Other options include Welt's 5-star light cone In the Name of the World or the 4-star gacha light cone Eyes of the Prey, which also provide effect hit rate but aren't as desirable as Silverwolf's 2 tailored light cones. Silverwolf's relics are a lot more ambiguous compared to light cones because she cares more about stats than she does set bonuses, and also because there are no relic set bonuses that grant effect hit rate. Most often, you're going to choose between 2 relic sets, which are the 4-set Genius of Brilliant Stars or the 4-set Musketeer of Wild Wheat. The 4-set Genius of Brilliant Stars is a simple damage-focused relic with quantum damage bonus and a 4-set effect that allows the user to ignore defense. Meanwhile, the 4-set Musketeer of Wild Wheat is a more universal set that provides nice boosts to attack percent and speed, which are Silverwolf's most important stats outside of effect hit rate, as well as a boost to basic attack damage, which, as I mentioned before, she will basic attack often for skill point economy. For Planar Ornaments, there really is only one Planar Ornament that you should run, and that's the 2-set Pan-Galactic Commercial Enterprise. This ornament is perfect for Silverwolf because it converts the ridiculous amount of effect hit rate you're going to build into a maximum of 25% attack, and also gives an additional 10% effect hit rate to build towards the ideal effect hit rate benchmark. Relic stats should have effect hit rate in the body piece, speed in the boots, quantum damage in the sphere, and attack percent in the link rope. Effect hit rate is a no-brainer in the body, as you can probably deduce, but the reason we run speed in the boots is that so Silverwolf can move faster than any other units to debuff beforehand. Quantum damage is pretty self-explanatory in the sphere, but it's likely the most difficult piece to farm out of all the relic slots, so you can always run attack percent as a replacement until you get that juicy quantum damage piece with a ton of effect hit rate and substats. Attack percent is generally used in the rope slot because she has a low cost ultimate at 110 energy, and even her event light cone before the tutorial mission starts has a passive that helps generate energy for Silverwolf. If using any other light cone, you can always use a link rope with energy regeneration rate as a substitute, but keep in mind that the link rope is one of the few sources of attack that Silverwolf can get beyond the 2-set effect of Pan-Galactic. For relic substats, with the light cone that offers effect hit rate plus an effect hit rate body piece, you'll only really need a couple of EHR substats to satisfy your needs. In this case, the rest of your substats can be allotted to offensive stats like attack percent, speed, and break effect when not focusing crit. With the enemy effect res nerfs in patch 1.1, it does become a lot more viable to build crit on Silverwolf, namely if you got her signature light cone and or some of her Eidolons. In this case, you can opt for a crit body piece and focus crit substats, but just be ready to accept that you might dip below the desired EHR benchmarks we've talked about previously if you neglect EHR in substats. Since we don't really have too many characters yet in Star Rail, this team section will be somewhat brief. Silverwolf is a character that I believe will get more attention as new characters are released, since you can get more unique element and path combinations that we currently don't have. The most important rule to maximize your team building with Silverwolf is to understand that her skill's weakness implant only considers elements that aren't a part of the enemy's innate weakness. To illustrate, if I have my Trailblazer, Natasha, Sushong, and Silverwolf against this Guardian Shadow with a physical and quantum weakness, the only possible outcome for Silverwolf's skill is a fire weakness. Under circumstances where the enemy has no weakness, fire, physical, and quantum would all be considered as possible weakness implants, but since the enemy already is weak to physical and quantum, they are no longer a part of the considered pool of implants. However, when I replace my Sushong with Yangqing, now there's a possibility of Silverwolf implanting an ice weakness or a fire weakness. Unfortunately, if fire weakness is applied the first time, overriding the existing weakness by using another skill does not guarantee that ice will be implanted, and there's a chance that the fire weakness duration will just be refreshed. Even without that 100% consistency with selecting the element of your primary damage dealer in multi-element teams, the damage increase she provides against boss enemies, regardless of whether or not their weakness broken, exceeds any other Nihility character that we've seen so far. As long as you have your damage dealer with buffers or debuffers plus enough survivability, all you have to do is work out the element logic that I outlined before in your head and get creative with your teams to succeed with Silverwolf. And before we end off the video, it's definitely worth touching upon Silverwolf's Eidolons. The short version of her Eidolons is that although Silverwolf already excels at E0, E2 is fantastic for reducing her effect hit rate requirement and is the stopping point for Dolphins. While E2 may be considered her most essential Eidolon by many, that doesn't mean you should write off the rest of her Eidolons. In fact, every single Eidolon outside of E2 is a decent power spike, whether that be to her damage or her buffing consistencies. E1 refunds 7 energy for every debuff on the enemy when Silverwolf uses her ultimate, up to 35 energy with 5 debuffs, which further justifies using attack percent for her link rope slot over energy recharge rate. E4 deals additional quantum damage to the target enemy after her ultimate for every debuff the enemy has, up to 5 times with 5 debuffs. If you couldn't see a pattern already, E6 plays into the pattern of 5 debuffs by granting Silverwolf's attacks a universal 20% damage buff for every debuff present on the enemy, up to, you guessed it, 5 times at 100%. Keep in mind that even E3 and E5 are great for not just higher damage multipliers, but also for higher base chances on Silverwolf's debuffs, since those also scale with ability levels. Lowering effect hit rate requirements also means you can focus more damage stats in Relics and Planar Ornaments, creating a snowball effect that turns Silverwolf into not just a debuffer but a high damage dealer as well. With that, I hope this Silverwolf guide was helpful to you. Definitely let me know your thoughts, builds, and teams for Silverwolf down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this guide or thought it was useful, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. The goal is 30k before the end of the year, and with your help, we can reach that goal. Other than that, it's the same as always. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.